to mid-70s. And then for Sunday, just a few showers, low 70s, even some sun breaks. I'm KIRO 7 pinpoint meteorologist Nick Allard.
It is still mostly cloudy and 72 degrees outside the Carter Subaru studios. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Listen live at mynorthwest.com. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
We got a little bone to pick with the programming department. Would it kill you every once in a while to play a little fog hat?
And your lips are like honey into the night. Well, I'm drifting and drifting. I'm caught in a dream. I'm lost but not lonely. The world stops turning.
Steamrolling into the final hour of our broadcast. Welcome back. Carter Subaru Studio. We're also streaming This Big Lead on Facebook Live. Welcome. So, right as Durandy left the building, we were talking about how he sends pizzas every time a band member has a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves, and then the delivery guy for Zeke's comes walking in with a pizza.
Seriously?
He sent us another pizza this afternoon.
Cupcakes and pizza?
Yeah.
He spoils you.
Here's what I don't quite understand. Like Nicole said, he decorates the box kind of like a middle school girl does, which makes a little collage of her favorite band with pictures she cuts out of Tiger Beat.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know if little girls do that anymore.
No. A Tiger Beat doesn't exist.
He sent one thing is just a picture of the band with a poem that Durandy wrote about him. And then the second thing, it's tour concert posters surround the outside of the paper, and it says, "One day to celebrate a lifetime of appreciation. John, Roger, Simon, and Nick, thank you." And then in the middle, if you can see this little box in the middle, there's a pair of red lips, a sumo wrestler, an ice cream cone, the silhouette of a naked girl, a tiger, a police hat, and a cocktail glass, and a pink rotary dial phone.
An eclectic mix.
I don't know the significance of any of those things. Let me put this back on the table behind me. Yeah, It was very nice.
Whenever the delivery guy comes, he keeps a straight face. Here's your pizza.
I saw the delivery guy cracking up as he was leaving. As he was
did he?
Yeah, I saw him
he
walking
normally
out.
keeps a pretty straight face.
Yeah,
it's a different one every time. But
okay, with that as a mere prelude, let's get to our big lead.
The Big Lead. Your tax dollars at work.
7 times the voters in Washington State have been presented with an income tax proposal. 7 times the voters have said no. We do not want an income tax in our state because we all know what will happen. What's happened with the sales tax? Well, when I was a kid, it was 4.5%. Now it's up over 10%. In many places, they just keep raising it higher and higher and higher. What's happened with property taxes? They have skyrocketed. I mean, just explosive growth in our property taxes. Some people paying thousands and thousands of dollars more per year than they did even just a few years ago. Every time we give them a new tax toy, they can't wait to play with it to its fullest. And that means raising the tax as high as they can on as many people as they can. But a lot of people said, yeah, but it's not a problem because the voters of this state are never going to go for an income tax. Guess what? You gave the Democrats control in Olympia. Maybe you didn't, but some real dopey voters did. Gave the Democrats control in Olympia. And what are they doing? They are talking today about an income tax. That is still their holy grail. That is what they want more than anything on earth. They want a state income tax. And why? Because leftists, politicians, love to punish high achievers. They hate high achieving. They need to take from the high achievers and give it to the people who don't make, who are working minimum wage jobs. And then they need to tell those minimum wage workers, if you vote for me, I'll take somebody else's money and I'll give it to you. So this is Lori Jenkins. She's the new speaker designate for the State House of Representatives, and she told TVW.
Just going back for a moment to the income tax, what I do want to be clear about is I'm not hearing you taking it completely off the table. It sounds like you think that it should be part of any conversation around tax reform in the state.
I don't think we should ever take anything off the table.
Okay.
On almost any topic. White nationalism, maybe. Yeah, I shouldn't say maybe. Yeah, we should take that off the table.
What is wrong? I mean, I'm serious. These leftists, they are screwed up in the brain. So the question is about the income tax. And that's all it takes to get street cred within the party is income tax. Nope, shouldn't take it off the table. White nationalism. They have to work those two words into every conversation. Why? Because that's the memo that went out about 2 weeks ago. And then their TV networks and every Democratic presidential candidate and even these statewide people, yeah, we got to consider a state income tax because of white nationalism. I'm telling you, their brains are addled with the messaging that they are mandated to put out there every single time they open their mouth. It's crazy. So anyway, there you go. The State House will not, even though it is absolutely unconstitutional, they're trying to find ways around our state constitution. And one way, of course, because what's unconstitutional is a graduated income tax or an income tax on only the wealthy. But if they have the exact same tax rate on every person, so if it's a 5% income tax, you're making $40,000 a year, you'll have to give $2,000 to the state of Washington. But if you make $400,000, you'd have to give $20,000, and that gets them excited. But for a middle class person, if you take $2,000 from somebody who's making $40,000 a year, I mean, I'm thinking of these kids just out of college and their first jobs who are making $40,000, $50,000 a year, and the state of Washington's going to take $2,000, $2,500 from them every single year. And by the way, not deductible on your federal income tax. Those are post-tax dollars, so it's actually much, much more of a tax burden. That's what they want. Why? Because money is their drug. Those heroin addicts who are shooting up every day on the streets, their heroin addiction is nothing compared to Democrat politicians' addiction to our money. That's a real monkey on their back. So there you go. They will not take the income tax, which is unconstitutional, off the table. And white nationalism. Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead, Dori Monson Show exclusive.
So yesterday I got off the air at 3 o'clock and drove down to CenturyLink Field so I could do the Seahawks pregame show. And as I was driving down there, where you can either go east on I-90 or you can go west to the stadiums, I noticed that the street signs, the freeway signs, they were just covered with graffiti. Some of them so covered with black paint that you couldn't even see what the sign said. And our Nicole Jennings, who does all our online and digital work, she just was working on a story about all of this graffiti. And Nicole, what made you think to even do a story about this?
Well, we actually received a tip from a listener, Garrett Lloyd King, who's a local truck driver in the area.
And he's one of our listeners?
Yes, he
We
is.
have so many truck driver listeners. I love our truck drivers.
And I mean, you know, so he does this for a profession, driving around. He's from here, and he actually got messed up by one of these freeway signs and ended up with his big truck, you know, having to navigate the downtown streets and get trapped in that mess because he ended up getting off the freeway too early. And so I thought, well, if that could mess up a truck driver, you know, these signs must be.
Professional driver. Yeah, and he told Nicole that he saw it in the same place I saw it yesterday, right where I-5 and I-90 meet.
Going westbound on I-90 and going to take I-5 south, which is exit 2B. Well, when you come around the corner, there's just a whole bunch of graffiti on it, or it's just sprayed out with black spray paint. So you can't even see the sign, what it says.
And as Nicole just said, he's a professional driver who's getting messed up by this.
I kind of missed that turn because I wasn't sure which it was, in a sense. You know, I know my way around pretty well, but even if I have a struggle with that, imagine those that aren't from around here.
Well, and especially because that is an area where a lot of people drive that maybe don't go into downtown for anything other than a Seahawks game or a Mariners game. And if there are no street signs because they're all covered with black paint.
Oh, yeah. And Seattle's a hard enough city to navigate as it is. You know, all the one-way streets, the intersections that are triangles and hexagons and you know, what have you. Seattle's a hard city to get around in as a driver. But then when you add in not being able to read the signs and not know where you're supposed to go, and you want to be a safe driver and not just be staring at the sign. You want to be, you know, eyes on road, just glancing at the sign. But if you can't read it, that's hard to do.
And that's what our listener said is, you know, how many people are just getting off the wrong exit because the sign is completely covered with black paint?
Imagine these people that aren't from around here. How many times have people ended up down on Edgar Martinez way down there because they can't see the sign?
So you talked to the DOT. Do we have any idea how much this is costing us, all this graffiti removal?
No, I wasn't able to find that out. I do know that the crews, you know, the crews are really stretched thin, the WashDOT crews, because the same people who go out there removing graffiti are also repaving. They're in the wintertime, they're out there with the plows, you know, they're fixing the guardrails, kind of any problem they're out there taking care of. So I see what the DOT meant is that it's hard to have enough manpower to go out there and fix these signs.
Well, this is what happens when you have so many drug addict, homeless on our streets. We have such a gang problem, and the gang tags are a huge issue. And for you and me, our tax dollars, these crews, these government DOT crews, as soon as they go and clean it up, Nicole talked with Joseph Calabro with WashDOT, and he said they'll go clean it up and it'll be spray painted almost immediately again.
Unfortunately, some of these signs that we clean or replace are routinely tagged again. And so it's a real frustration.
You know, you've spent a lot of time in Europe. I was just in Europe a few weeks ago, and we took a train from Barcelona up into the mountains. And my wife and girls and I, we were commenting that every inch along the train tracks is covered with graffiti, and almost every European city. There seems to be something with socialism and disenfranchised young people and graffiti. And it's all around Europe, and it's here in Seattle because, you know, we've instilled the same mentality around here.
Yeah, it's bad in Barcelona. It's bad in Rome, going from the airport to the city. It's really bad over in Europe, but you know, it seems to have come here too.
Yeah, and one of the problems is if they tag your business, it's up to you, the business owner, to clean it up at personal expense. And this is what happens when we got so much lawlessness right around the city. All right, you have a lot more of the audio, and you have a lot more story posted right now at mynorthwest.com.
Yep, on your page.
Okay, check that out, the Dori Monson Show page. Nicole Jennings. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, up next in The Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top trending.
Little fake news update. So there have been some stories just in the since I got off the air yesterday, that the media, which, you know, is absolutely single-minded about doing the bidding of the leftist politicians. And so the media is trying to do anything they can to try to take down the president. So there were a couple of things yesterday that were just so disgusting. Yesterday and this morning, that were so disgusting. So down in the South, there were these immigration raids at these food processing plants. And CNN, CBS, they were exploiting this 11-year-old girl who was crying because her dad, who was an illegal, had been one of the 688 arrested.
Government, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else, please.
Magdalena Gomez Gregorio pleaded for the return of her dad, one of hundreds of undocumented immigrants rounded up Wednesday by Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
The 11-year-old and other children of those arrested stayed at a community center gymnasium overnight after about 600 immigration agents targeted food processing plants across central Mississippi. Some employers were also arrested.
Okay, and here's the point of this. Any American citizen child whose mom or dad is arrested, they're probably sad when their parent is arrested for breaking a law. But you don't have networks exploiting those children, the children of our country, our citizens, whose parents get arrested, because there's no political points to be scored in putting crying 11-year-olds if their mom or dad broke some other law, but they're American citizens. But this one, and then the anchors at the end of the CBS report.
It's very tough to watch an 11-year-old plead for her father on the first day of school for a lot of these kids. Yeah, wow. All right, Omar,
Definitely
thanks.
Worried about those kids.
On the first day of school. Bit of a non sequitur. But again, yeah, it sucks when your parent breaks a law and gets arrested for it. But it happens to kids every day in this country. But CNN wanted to use that 11-year-old girl, too.
I need my dad for me. My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
And what happened was they arrested 688 illegals. They checked to see if they had committed more violent crimes or other crimes that would require more immediate deportation. And many had not. And so they released 300 of them. Nobody did a follow-up to see if this girl's dad was one of the ones released or if he had committed some other crimes in this country, and that would lead to deportation. But CNN used that first day of school non sequitur as well.
The raids on the heels of the El Paso shooting, where Latinos were purposely targeted, also came on the first day of school for those children.
You know, they had to bring up El Paso because that's how they could score political points. And then there was another similar story on a guy who was an illegal in this country. He was born in Greece, but he was an Iraqi citizen. And, man, the way CNN played that story, because he went back to Iraq, and then they say he died because he couldn't get insulin because he didn't speak the language.
A man who spent most of his life in the U.S. died this week after he was deported to Iraq in June. Jimmy Al-Daoud's family believes he died because he couldn't obtain insulin to treat his diabetes. They say he was living on the streets of Baghdad. Al-Daoud was deported to Iraq as part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
Okay, so the Trump administration sent this guy to Iraq to die. Now, you have to go 11 paragraphs into the written CNN.com story to read this about the guy. Al-Daoud had an extensive criminal history that involved no less than 20 convictions between 1998 and 2017, including assault with a dangerous weapon, domestic violence, breaking and entering, malicious destruction of a building, home invasion. His criminal history led to this guy being incarcerated and eventually deported. So are we at a point now where we can't deport people with extensive criminal histories who are in this country illegally without CNN burying that information and just saying, yeah, the Trump administration killed this guy, sending him back to Iraq? The networks are despicable in how they're presenting all of this. They're using 11-year-old girls, do no follow-up to see if her dad was released because he had committed no other crimes. We don't know if he did or not because nobody followed up on that. And then suggesting that deportation killed this guy. It's his criminal history that really did him in. They don't say that. And that is your big lead this hour.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Okay, we're going to check the news for you, and then our awesome audio of the week, which includes my favorite audio of 2019 so far. That's coming up.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Aging